Welcome to the Empowered Money Girl, where we break down the barriers to financial confidence, celebrate women's wins, and reveal the secrets to living boldly and well. I'm your host, Josette Mandela. So let me ask you, what does it take to lead with vision, create meaningful change, and still stay true to yourself? My guest today knows that better than anyone. Carla Tillery is the president of FHI Studio and CEO of her own consulting firm, where she blends executive leadership with results-driven coaching to help people and organizations move from ordinary to extraordinary. She's also the co-founder and vice president of Proverbs, Inc., an organization dedicated to helping youth and adults navigate life's challenges and step into a more fulfilling future. With decades of experience in leadership, strategy, and personal growth, Carla has guided executives, teams, and communities to unlock their potential and achieve lasting success. If you're ready to learn what it takes to lead with purpose and transform both life and work, you will love this conversation. Please welcome the insightful, empowering, and visionary Carla Tillery.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to join you today and your audience. I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So, Carla, can you take us back to the beginning? What was your path like to get where you are today?
So my path was interesting. It was adventurous at times, and nerve-wracking and scary. So my path consists of a lot of different emotions. I started off, I think, in order to kind of find out where I landed, I'll start way back when I was a young girl with my father. I'm originally from North Carolina. And during that time when I was in high school, there was a strong push for women to become more interested in the fields of engineering. And so there is, just like today, there's a huge push on science and math through like STEM programs. Back then, it was just trying to get, exposure of engineering to women. And so there were some programs in high school, and I decided to sort of explore. I was an explorer, and I was good in math. I was good in science. So my teachers pushed me to be involved with this program during the summer that was at one of the local state universities. So I decided to go. They did a couple of class offerings. One was photography, which I absolutely love. And that was back in the day where you actually were in the dark room. And so I had a chance to really do the prints and all of that, which was great. But I also had an offering of exposure to engineering, about 5 different disciplines. And one of them really stuck with me. And it was because I'm a daddy's girl. And I remember riding with my father in a car, and we approached a stoplight, and he looked back to the back seat because I was really young, and he said, "Baby girl, I bet you I can tell you when the light's going to turn green." And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And he said, "It's going to turn green now." And it turned green, and I was fascinated, of course. So dad's my hero, right? I'm just a young girl fascinated by the fact that my father knew when the light was going to turn green. I had no idea that he had been at this light so often that he had learned the cycles. And so he knew the timing. So, he was so familiar with it. He knew when it was going to turn green. And so when I was sitting in class and they introduced civil engineering, and one of the areas in civil engineering was focused on transportation and traffic operations and signal operations. And it clicked to this story of me and my father. And I said, that's what I want to do. And so I decided to pursue civil engineering and for my academic studies. And then I achieved and attained my bachelor's degree. I ended up moving to Connecticut shortly after that, and I got married. And I went to get my master's in civil engineering as well. And I focus in transportation, transportation operations, and urban planning. And as a result of that, that was the launching of my career. I started immediately after I completed my master's program, and I started as a transportation planner. And as I did that for a couple of years with a municipal agency, and it was great. It was a great start, a good baseline for building my foundation in transportation. And as I started to think about what my options and career trajectory was, I wanted something a little bit more fast paced. So I decided to look for opportunities in the private industry. Found a great consulting firm that was looking for a transportation planner. I applied, and I was with that firm for 28 years, believe it or not. And so that was sort of the beginning of my career taking form, forming shape, and the leadership opportunities that have allowed me to kind of explore many different roles at that firm.
Wow, that's amazing, that whole train, how,
Yes.
it kind of started with a comment that your father made, and then you realized, hey, that sounds like something fun. Let's learn more about that.
Yes, yes. I am one of those who finds things relatable that helps me learn. That's the best way for me to learn. I really like real life application. And so, because of that experience with my father and the traffic signal, and the minute I saw, that civil engineering incorporates looking at transportation systems and traffic operations, that was my immediate connection. And it was something that I was like, yeah, I want to pursue this. And it really took shape. I still to this day enjoy putting together transportation traffic models. I don't do it in my current role, but I still have a passion for it, maybe a little bit of a engineering geek per se. But that was really something that resonates with me. And I found that very helpful as part of my career to sort of have that connection. That experience is something I can go out and see, look at, in our, different environments, just sort of see how things operate and function.
So I let's take a step back, because I'm not sure that everyone necessarily knows what a urban planner, traffic, uh, your job, and
Sure.
how it relates to the engineering. Because to me, engineering is putting up a building or a bridge.
Right. Well, civil engineering has so many different disciplines or areas of focus. And so most people have a kind of, it's better understanding when you look at bridges. Like people think bridges, that's a structural engineer. That's also a part of like the civil engineering umbrella. There's water systems, there's environmental engineers, or a civil engineer can also focus on the environment. And so with the transportation, what I do in my specific role, or I should say my former role as a transportation planner, I was looking at roadways. I was looking at facilities that move and carry people and goods, such as bus transportation, trains that carry people on the railways, working at airport studies and things of that nature. So anything that moves people and goods, I was sort of involved with as a transportation planner, but I'm looking at its interface for all users. So it's not just the vehicles, but it's also the pedestrians that are also walking along the sidewalks that need safe and accessible facilities to be able to access a bus station or your neighborhood, or to get from your house to the store. And so I'm looking at that interface of pedestrians, bicyclists, and vehicles in different environments, both in the urban environment, our cities that are, large, dense, populated, as well as the suburban and urban, rural areas as well.
Okay, that makes sense. So you were doing that for 28 years, and then you decided this is boring, getting old, and decided to start your
No.
own business.
No, so I was fortunate to be a part of this this company. It was, and maybe a little bit of history on the firm would be helpful as well. It was a woman-owned firm, and that was very exciting to me, to kind of learn about how this one woman created this wonderful company that was actually providing a lifestyle for me, because of course I'm getting paid, right? And so I was always fascinated by how did she start this company and why. And so having an opportunity to sort of observe and to really watch her over many, many years, and just see her passion, not only for women, but for the work that we do. And she started off because she was at a larger consulting firm, but she needed something to really support her lifestyle. She had a young child, and so she wanted to be able to work from home, to be able to take care of her child, as well as support, financially. And so she created this company and started very small with a few people. She had a couple of assistants working with her, and she had a strong reputation. So she gained a lot more work, which means that you need more people. So she kept hiring. And so I believe when I came into the firm, it was probably about the 10th or 11th employee, and had no idea I was going to work from home. Now, this goes way back ahead of COVID. So she really was a trendsetter. She was a trailblazer for creating and living what work-life balance truly looks like. I had no idea I would work from home. I thought I was going to be going to the office every day. And so it was just amazing to watch her kind of create this, and present these opportunities for many people. So she was a woman owned. She created her own business. I had a chance to watch and observe her, as I said, and over the years, gaining more experience and leaning into my work, I was able to have a lot of opportunities. And she asked me, when she decided to give consideration to a retirement plan, she wanted to then say, I need to kind of create more ownership, and so that she could divest. And so I was one of the first 5 to be offered ownership into her company. That was the beginning of a lot, in terms of sort of my financial investments and future. Young, married, 2 kids, trying to figure out how am I going to come up with a large sum of money to be able to invest into this company. I knew it was a great opportunity. I did not want to miss it. And so I did a lot of research to try to figure out how could I leverage in, right, on this opportunity. So to answer your question, because you may go back there, as a part of this ownership now, again, I kept gaining more responsibilities. My roles kept changing, and I started to do more the business side of things. And so 28 years, I'm fast forwarding. Me and my partners were looking for other opportunities and trying to get more investors from within the company. And because it was really challenging, we decided to sell the company. So we sold the company to a larger engineering firm. So we're now with IMEG. And as a result of that, I am now doing a lot of leadership coaching with a lot of their executives in the firm, and working, being able to share my experience both in the engineering realm and what I did from a technical perspective, but now, combining sort of my business skills to help the leaders in the company as well. So I'm loving where I am right now, to have the opportunity to share my experience and to work with other executives at IMEG now.
That's an incredible story. And
Yes,
and to be able to do that, to not only to find a company that wants to invest in their people, but then when they decide that I think it's time for me to move on, they actually looked at the people that were in the company rather than just decide
yes,
to divest the company. And
yes.
that gave you so many more opportunities to try new things. And now you're practicing a whole new skill set of teaching others what you've learned and the leadership skills. That's amazing.
Yes, it was a perfect sort of marriage, I would say, in terms of my skills, because I've always had a love for teaching and sharing what I know with others, and I had done that outside. Even when I was, with FHI Studio, I had created my own LLC and nonprofit, and my husband and I had done a lot of things. And as part of our community work, I launched my own coaching practice. And so I was doing that, just with the community and other industries. And so now at sort of this stage of my career, to be able to combine that with my engineering and business experiences has been a wonderful start to this phase of my career now.
So in this new phase, are there new financial challenges that you're looking at, or do you feel like you've achieved financial independence and now you have more freedom to do things? Or how do you feel you're at with your financial journey here?
Oh, financial journey. So I would say when it comes to financial independence, I think there's a few things that really I would lean into in this moment about financial independence. I think for as a mom, as a wife, certainly wanting to kind of create the lifestyle that my husband and I wanted to have, raising our children and the investment in them as well as ourselves. It certainly was not easy, challenging. I do not come from a wealthy family. You go to work and you earn your money and you pay your bills and you try to keep up and you try to put money aside. And so, with that, it's having two parents in the home, growing up watching them work. That's what I knew to do by watching them. So my husband, we just worked hard. We put in extra hours when we could to be able to take care of the things and do some of the extra things that we wanted to do. I think now looking at where I am in my life, I have two adult children, and so they're living their lives. And so me and my husband, our finances have shifted in terms of what we spend it on. We don't have to do the investments in them like we did in the past because they're working and they're, creating their own life and living their life. And so we've been able to redirect some of the money, right, that was the investment in them into ourselves now. So I think it looks different, and it looks different just because of the season that we're in our life. And so again, when we had young kids, and we had a mortgage and a car notes, we're just doing everything we can to be responsible, to maintain good credit so that we could have access when necessary. And so we were taking in a lot of those principles that my mom and my dad had taught me, as well as my husband's parents had taught him. And so it was hard work and making good decisions to the best that you could. So our financial, I would say, independence, if that's the framework here, it just looks different, depending
Mhm.
on the season of life that you're in. So we're able to do a little bit more for us, and that's a beautiful thing. But it wasn't always like that, So, and now we're preparing for retirement. And so with that comes thinking strategically, being again careful and responsible to save, store up. We have a financial planner. So we meet with our financial planner, yearly, to make sure that we're on the right track to be able to do the things that we want to do in our retirement years.
And that to me is something that I don't see a lot of, is that
Mhm.
um, a lot of my guests come on and they didn't have any clue about their finances and kind of learned the hard way. You're one of the few that I've had on that have said, "Oh yeah, my parents are great. They knew things and they taught us, and we took it from there." And it's so nice when when it works out that way, because it's not a skill taught in school, which I just don't understand why it's not, because it's such a critical skill and it's not something that you can just pick up through osmosis.
I so agree. It is not taught in schools, but I'm very passionate about my money. I like my money, and I like to be able to do the things that I want to do. But I know that it's not easy, and I am grateful for my parents. I think because of the hardships that they've had, that they learned how to do what they needed to do to be able to take care of me and my sister. And so they were not shy about telling us money doesn't grow on trees. That was what I heard my entire life. And it's like, you can ask for things. I wanted to go to McDonald's all the time, or I would want things that I saw my friends at school, things that they have. And my mother would say, money doesn't grow on trees. And I knew right then it was, you're not going to get everything you asked for. And so it was a lot of hearing that over and over, in addition to them really telling us what things that they did. You know, I remember when I got married and my husband was talking with my father just as right before we got married. And he said, "You got this, right, son?" And he was like, "Yes." And so my father was like, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance. Like, he was going through the list to make sure that my husband was going to be able to take care of those things for me. Because my father had said, if your husband, or at the, you know, if he can't do more than what I can do for you, you need to stay home. And so my father was very protective, but he was very mindful to make sure that when I got married, that you know, my husband now was prepared and able to take on those responsibilities. So it's those kind of principles that were laid out. My father and mother always told us to, you know, to save our money. Because of our faith, I'm a tither. And so I know the principle of giving, and I wholeheartedly believe in giving. And so those are other principles that my parents taught us that I still practice today. And those are things that I passed on to my sons. And so I was never shy to talk about, let's put a budget together, let's go through it. My husband and I would sit down yearly to see what adjustments we would need to make, how much we were going to save. I'm big on goal setting. So if I have a goal, then I'm driven towards that. So you have to know your motivators, right? I think if you're thinking about financial independence, what motivates you to look at your finances, be honest with yourself about your spending habits and what you need to do. And so, and I love sharing sort of my aha moments as well with that. And I remember, and I'll share one little quick story. I remember my husband and I were getting ready to buy the house, and it was hard. Like, you know, we were young, we just had one son at the time. Excuse me. And I think a few years later, I was using my credit card quite a bit, and it got way up there. And I remember having like over $20,000 worth of debt. And I said, I can't live like this. And so I made a conscious decision to be mindful. And that was the turning point.
I like that. And it's absolutely true. If you don't concentrate on things and put it top of mind that this is my financial life, you can't just put it on autopilot and hope for the best and use the credit card and hope there's money there. You really need to have, like you say, the budget, the planning, and do all those things. And I also love the point you brought up about the tithing, because to me, gratitude and tithing are hand in hand. And I have found that every time that I do am conscious and make a point of being consistent with the tithing, that it seems like my life goes so much simpler than those times where I'm like, "Oh, I'll do it later," and then somehow never get it done. And I truly believe the universe will bless you if you're blessing others.
Absolutely. Like I said, I was raised that way. I saw the benefits of just watching my parents do it. They instilled that within me and my sister, and I see the results of it. So I'm a big believer of it. And again, as I said before, I've passed that on to my kids as well.
So, do you believe that women should always have money of their own? Why or why not?
So here we go. That's a good question. If my mother just passed not too long ago. She was the one who told me and would whisper in my ear, have your own money. So yes, I'm a firm believer in that. I think what it more so represents is making sure that you still maintain your own identity, even if you are married. I was very open with my husband, so we had conversations a lot about how we were going to handle our finances. And I know that what we do doesn't always work for other couples. It really is dependent upon the two individuals if you have a partner. But fortunately, my husband and I are both responsible. And so he had his own account, I had my own account. We made a decision that neither one of us could spend more than $500 or more without us having a conversation, because that we felt like that value at some point would affect the other person and what their responsibilities were. But we've done it a lot of different ways. You know, we also have had a shared account. So it just depends on how you want to physically and mechanically kind of have those money mechanisms. But I would say that I always had an opportunity to make decisions about my money. But I would do it in concert with my husband. So yes, I have my own account, I have my own money. There's, things that I can do on my own. So I feel at liberty. I feel like I'm very independent in that fashion, but it's because I also am trusted. I also am responsible. And I think you can't have financial independence with a partner or on your own without really being trusted, responsible, conscientious, smart about it. I love to listen to other people talk about finances and what they do. So if I know someone and I'm like, wow, how did they do that? I'm not afraid to ask the question. And sometimes people are not willing to share, and that's okay. But there are people that are willing to show you how you can do certain things or make investments or make certain purchases that'll give you strategies and some smart techniques. And so I would dare say that, I wouldn't dare say I did this on my own. I did this with a lot of research and guidance and asking a lot of questions over the years to various people. Those that I've worked with, my parents, friends that I've had. I think sharing is important. And so power to you for this type of podcast that really focuses on that financial independence, and even with that emphasis for women. Is awesome.
Thank you. And that ties in nicely with what I do in my practice, is that I suggest that, like you say, when their partner, whether it's spouse or just, a living arrangement where the two of you are together, is that you have those money conversations. And I actually suggest that they put a money date night on the calendar and make a point of having those discussions. And like you say, I feel strongly that each of you should have a pile of money that you can access on your own so that you're not feeling constrained, as well as having that community pile, if you will, to pay the community bills, like the mortgage, like the rent, or if you're renting, the utilities, that sort of thing. But like you say, you need to start from the beginning. It can't be, oh, honey, this is what we're going to do today, and suddenly spring it on one partner, because that's just never going to work.
It's never going to work. I agree. It creates a lot of tension, friction. And so it's important that there's power of agreement when you have a partner. and that you agree to the terms, you agree to how you're going to do things, what makes sense. And I think that is powerful when you can have that type of agreement, and trust each other to follow through. So yes.
So what's next for you? What ambitions are still driving you forward?
Well, I think I'm just embracing where I am. I'm kind of like I said, after my partners and I, after we, sold the company and merged with another firm, and I'm charging new territory here as a leadership coach within IMEG. I'm embracing that, and I'm having a really good time doing that and traveling and meeting a lot of people across the country and working with them. So right now, I think that that's kind of like where my headspace is right now. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying, my husband and I are empty nesters. The common expression when you have adult kids that are now on their own, and so we're having a chance to do some things and travel, visit places, and enjoy our time together. So that's kind of like where I am right now, loving on family, and getting that opportunity to really embrace opportunities to be able to visit and spend more time with them.
Well, that sounds like a great place to be. So, if you had one message to give to women listening today about owning their independence, what would it be?
First, do your research, get guidance, get good guidance. I think that's very important as a first step to understand your income, to understand how you spend money, how you value money. I think is very important, and what your ultimate sort of a financial philosophy is. Secondly, I would say make a plan. If there's certain goals, make a plan. As I said, I'm very goal oriented. I do think it's helpful for those who can be driven towards a milestone, set something. It can be small, but once you achieve it, it's wonderful. And thirdly, I would just say follow through. There's nothing worse than having a plan and not taking any action on it. If you say you want to save so much a year, make sure you do it. So follow through, and watch yourself just be on that road to really achieving all the things that you desire in your financial environment. So that was what I would say.
So, thank you so much for joining us today, and a huge thank you to Carla Tillery for sharing her wisdom and energy with us. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the Empowered Money Girl with your friends. The more we spread these stories, the more women we can empower to live boldly, both financially and every part of life. Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, your journey to empowerment starts with you.